Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Austin Downbeat. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate everyone who tunes in, and especially those who subscribe. So we're going to start it off as we usually do with a little bit of a rundown. This covers April 12th through the 18th this week in Austin and the surrounding area. We have tonight, the 12th, at the Mohawk, we have Lights. On the 13th at Don's Depot, we have Frank Cavett and the Honky Tonk Doctors. On the 15th, we have two events. First one at Hotspot, we have Hollywood Gods and Monsters. And then also on the 15th at the O4 Center, we have the friend of the show, Ben Jones, playing along with Folk Uke. And then on the 18th, back over at Don's Depot, we have Chris Gage. As usual, keep an eye on my social media and your favorite artist's social media to be sure that you're following and getting those last minute announcements and tickets. My guest for today is someone I've been watching for about the last year, as he has been sort of readying himself in multiple ways to get ready for what's to come. And I think our interview was perfectly timed. You know, I wanted to interview him about a year ago, but I'm really glad we did it now because he's really kind of at that fork in the road, past that, but you know, just at that place where it's really palpable and visible, watching his growth and climb, as I mentioned in the interview. Deezie Brown is our guest. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. For example, the Super Bowl halftime show was my jam. And maybe it was yours too. I did not sit down during that. And so rap and hip hop is such a thread in my fabric. But there's so much that I don't know about it. And so it was really nice to sit down with Deezie and kind of get some questions answered and fill in some of that knowledge that I just don't have. We bond over anxiety, whether it's performing, you know, doing things like this or just socially. He talks about anxiety and what helps him currently and what helped him in the very beginning of understanding and educating himself about it. He is a Bastrop boy. I'm so proud of it. So this is also kind of a shout out and love letter to Bastrop and really where he comes from, where his parents still live. When you see him perform, he always gives a shout out to Bastrop. So he's very proud of where he's from. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes from this interview is him saying that there's so much more room for storytelling these days. And so we really talk about what life has looked like for the last couple of years for him, how he structures his day, kind of just all of it. We get into all of it. I'm really proud of this conversation. It was so easy to have. He's such a sweetheart and has the most beautiful smile. If you haven't seen Deezie perform, it is such a dynamic experience. You know, on one hand, it's rap and it's what rap gives, but then he just has such a light and such a beautiful smile and such a happiness through him. So it's this really interesting dynamic that he brings just by being who he is. And so I'm really glad that I finally got to talk to him and experience, you know, him kind of as close as I can get, which is through Zoom right now. So please enjoy this interview with Deezie Brown. New music coming soon from him. He has a new single coming out this month, actually 2 weeks from the air of this interview, and a new album coming out this summer. He also has another band with my guest next week. They have a band together called Geto Gala, and they have new music coming out too. So there's a lot coming out of this guy, and I'm here for all of it. So please, without further ado, Deezie Brown. Deezie Brown, thank you for coming to the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So I've been watching you. I really have, and I've seen you play twice now. There was a little bit of space in between those times. First time was at Sea Boys when you were doing your residency, and that was awesome. Such a great vibe, packed to the gills.
Yes.
Which much we're going to talk about how that felt. And then I just saw you recently at the Austin Music Awards.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Had a lot. I'm there as well.
I know. And I have a lot of questions for you because, like I said, I've been very curious about you ever since I learned about you, I guess, last year. I listened to Imitate was the first song I heard from you. And I was like, who is this guy? And I was like, Wayne, I need him on my show.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm like, oh, I've been paying attention for a while for you on you. But I want to start. I could get ahead of myself because I have so many questions, but I want to start. I know you're a Bastrop guy, born and raised.
Born and raised.
All right. Tell me about Bastrop. What was it like growing up there?
Well, it's a small town. So it's like everyone knew everyone. You know, you knew the barber, you knew the principal. My mom was the police officer for the school, and my dad was the barber for everyone, you know, all of my classmates and stuff. So I kind of like knew everyone from that. But yeah, it was a small town. You know, we went to the skating ring on Fridays. We went to football games on Friday nights. I mean, you know, the whole small town syndrome. But it was great, you know, but it didn't have a lot of resources when it came to music. So I knew when I got to like 9th, 10th grade that I had to really find some different things to do. And I decided to move towards Austin in my 20s. But as far as like Bastrop goes, I mean, it was a cool place to grow up, super diverse, super nice people. You know, I can't complain about it at all. Actually.
Yeah, well, you do tend to mention Bastrop when you perform, and you're very proud of that. And so I feel that from you. And so I wanted to make sure we give a little shout out to Bastrop peeps.
Yeah, it's definitely growing. You know, we got a movie theater now or something. You know, so I mean, it's definitely growing, and I'm looking forward to kind of just giving back to the community any way I can. So those little shout outs is kind of like me getting a head start on that, actually. So,
I love that. Yeah. Are your parents still there?
Parents are still there. They're not going anywhere.
Parents tend to do that. They tend to stick in one spot. One of the things that I noticed about you, and I was telling Wayne, one of my favorite things about you, besides just your talent, when I see you perform, you look so happy, and you look like you are exactly where you're supposed to be. Can you talk a little bit about that? And I have questions about rap too, because I have to think that you are like camping out in like the flow state, and I'm curious if that's true. But talk about a little bit about what performing feels for you.
Well, you know, performing has been kind of a fear thing for me. It's kind of been something that I've been trying to overcome. So when I'm on stage, I think what you're seeing is me just kind of like facing my fears live in real time.
Wow.
You know, when it came to ACL and when it came to Sea Boys, I started to become a little bit more comfortable in my skin, especially with my new band, you know, and especially with like wearing racing jumpsuits on stage, and the MPC I use on stage now, it gives me time to breathe through songs. So yeah, I mean, I'm starting to enjoy it. You know, I'm starting to find cool things about performing and cool things about the fans and stuff like that. And you know, I'm a Bastrop boy, so a lot of like hometown thoughts are going through my mind as I'm up there. Like, yo, I'm this kid from Bastrop, humongous city of Austin, Texas, being able to express myself through hip hop, you know, and that means a lot. So that's probably what you're seeing. It's just me so excited to kind of just give back, honestly.
Yeah, I guess the gratefulness and that is coming across as confidence, like a really positive confidence. It's one of the things that like I will try to be at every one of your shows as much as I can, because it's like contagious, you know. It's really contagious. Are you in a flow state when how do you remember all of because you're talking, you know, it's rap, so it's like you're saying a lot. How in the world do you remember it all? I mean, I know obviously you wrote it, so it's coming out of you, but maybe it's a silly question. It just seems like,
Sometimes I ask myself that because I think that's one thing that I get really nervous about is like, how am I going to remember all of these lyrics for 45 minutes and
right.
keep breath at the same time? But it just comes with rehearsal. It comes with rehearsal with the band pretty much every other week. It comes with rehearsing in the car, in the shower, in the mirror, all of those things. And then another thing that's been helping me too is actually reciting my lyrics without the music. So I go on walks around 12 o'clock every day. It's kind of my meditation thing. And I kind of just run and recite my lyrics as I'm doing it. And it's kind of been helping me remember the words a little bit. So yeah, there's different techniques and there's different things, but trust me, like the first 5 minutes, like before I get on the stage, I'm like, I can't remember anything. I don't know any words. And then as soon as that drum break hits, it kind of just comes to me naturally. So I'm just kind of moving on faith, if we're being honest.
Yeah, that downbeat is really kind of the the gun that starts it all. Well, you know what? I will say, I understand that, because even like 10 minutes ago, before you hopped onto this interview, I have my page of notes. I've dug up and thought about you all day and really thinking about, what am I curious about? What do I know? What don't I know?
Mm-hmm.
But then at some point, you're going to show up here and I'm like, I don't know how it's going to go. I have to trust myself. How has that relationship been with yourself, like building that self-trust, or just knowing like, hey, it's going to be what it's going to be. And as long as I'm in the moment, my intentions are good. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and uh, when the pandemic hit in 2020, like I had no idea what anxiety was. Like people would say it, people would
Yeah.
mention, people would say, "Oh, you probably got." I was like, "I don't know what that is. I'm just cold, or I just got the chills, or something." And so when I was able to educate myself on what anxiety was, I was able to push myself through a lot of different things that I didn't know that I could conquer. And I think that was really my breakthrough in kind of just getting through nervousness and getting through stage fright and stuff like that, interviews and stuff. So I blame anxiety. I struggled with it for 2 years horribly. And I had to just look myself in the mirror and say, you're going to beat this. You're going to get through this. I read books. I did meditation, part of Sims and stuff like that. So it was just different things that got me through. But I say, just leaning on my faith, and just trying to conquer those small victories. And that's kind of just been helping. Yeah.
I think naming it, I have social anxiety
Oh,
big
me too.
time. I will tell you, I'm so proud of myself. So next week I'm talking to a pal of yours, Jake Lloyd. And
Hey.
the only reason I'm talking to Jake Lloyd is because at the Austin Music Awards, I made a deal with myself. I was like, Kat, you got to have a couple business cards and you've got to hand at least 2 out, for the love of God. Like, but I was like sweating. I have no right to be here. Nobody knows who you are, Kat. Like, your show is so new. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And naming it is huge for me
Yeah.
as well. Like, say, like, dude, this is just social anxiety.
Mm.
Nobody here knows what they're doing. We're all just doing the best we can.
And that's what I was afraid of for so long. I was afraid of like labeling it. I didn't want people to put some type of mental health issue on me or any of that thing. I didn't want anything affecting my music or any of
Right.
that. I was so scared to label it. But once I kind of just sat down and say, look, you're scared, you're nervous, you're in fear. What are you going to do about it? And I watched an interview Kobe Bryant, and he was basically saying how he dealt with anxiety. And basically all he said is he just take a step back and analyze everything that he was scared of, and then just kind of started just to pick and pick and pick. And when you do that, you start to realize that it's just in your head and you're just like overthinking it. And so that's kind of how we've been rolling with it. Is if the anxiety wants to come with me on stage, come with me, but I still got to do this show. So,
Absolutely. Like, here's a little spot for it to stand. One thing that helps me a lot is I do that kind of stepping back, and the saying that I have for me every time is, what is true? And I just start naming the things that are true, because there are things you can pick out of that pile of anxiety that are true, that you want to keep with you on stage. or with
Yeah.
you during an interview or whatever. And so I always stick to the truth. It's like my best friend, you
Oh
know?
my,
I
I can
love
agree
that.
with that.
I love that. Um, yeah, so that's awesome. I think that's gonna be really helpful for people to hear. You are so not alone in that. And I think the more anxiety for me, it's just an indicator of that I'm doing what I want to be doing and I'm putting
Yeah.
myself out there, which is what I actually want to be doing. You know, I
Hmm.
want to be pushing and striving. So kind of comes with the car, right?
Oh yeah, I'll take it though.
Yeah, me too. Um, Tell me a little bit about, well, I want to make sure that we talk about, you have an upcoming release for your new single. Is it your debut single? Because I have heard other music out there from you. So can you clarify that? It's
Well, I put out an album in 2018. It was called Judith. So I guess that would be my first or debut album. But we took it down because of, not knowing anything about the music industry or the any of the business at the time, and it was kind of too early to put up. There were samples on there that weren't cleared and things like that.
yeah.
And so I went ahead and took that one down. And so I guess this one can count as my debut. I've been working on it for the last 4 to 5 years, and I'm super, super excited to release it. It's like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But yeah, we're going to release that at the end of April, hopefully. We got a music video attached to it for the summer. Yeah, we're just super excited. We're going to drop the album this summer as well. So we're just looking forward to just success, and getting it done, actually.
Yeah. So the single is called Malice at the Palace. And I
Yeah.
think there's a target release date of April 26th. So everyone's going to see this. They are seeing this interview on April 12th. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So what is that math? I suck at math. 2 weeks. So in
Yeah.
2 weeks from this moment.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm
I
super
know
excited.
it's so surreal to me, because we've been doing things like, even on this one, we've been doing things like getting samples cleared, and I didn't know that was doable from a local or an independent artist. I thought that you needed like this big label and all these different people, these other people, to get a sample cleared. And so, that's been awesome for me. It's just kind of learning about things that I can conquer as an independent. It's been so cool, so cool. So yeah, we're looking forward to the next in 2 weeks, the 26th. I'm so excited, actually.
Yeah. And I think the music industry has changed pretty massively to enable that, so that, like people like you can do whatever you want. You just gotta do it, It's so cool because it's so different.
Yeah.
So I heard your music described as hip hop, Southern rap, and soul. What's the
Mhm.
difference between rap, Southern rap, and hip hop? How would you define those?
Well, when I think of hip hop, I think of its natural born entity, which is like New York beat breaks, DJ, a rapper. But then when you think of Southern rap, it's more like storytelling,
Mhm.
in the deep South. And I'm not saying that, Southern folk went through more, but I am saying in the deep South, it was a little bit harder. We deal with racism a little bit more. And so there's stories that are told that aren't told up in the East Coast. It's just a different type of flow. We were raised in churches and
Mhm.
church and stuff like that. And so that's how I would describe the difference from hip hop and Southern hip hop. It's just more of like a deeper storytelling aspect that comes with it. Yeah.
Do you feel like there's been an evolution? I was reading an article where it was talking about how rap started as protest
Oh,
music,
wow.
and then it kind of had like this, back in the 90s, right?
Huh? Yeah.
And whether East Coast, Southern, very like protest
Yes.
driven.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then you had kind of you know, a long time of that, but then like then a new wave of it, like with trap
Yes.
and maybe some other subsets,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But the article was saying that it feels like rap is moving back into protest.
Yeah.
How would you interpret that? And does that feel like that's true for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially, and I go back and reference the virus. It's like that was the first time a lot of us were seeing people pass away and die, like a lot, on a mass level. And so for me, I took it to my point. It's like, if you're still rapping, you're still doing music after that, like you should have way more to talk about than your fancy car and your fancy chain and the
Right.
things that hip hop and rap has kind of turned into over the years, just because it's so competitive. But yeah, I feel like it's shifting in a place to where people can get back into storytelling, especially things that are going on with police brutality and Black people in America. We have more of a narrative and we have more to say, and we kind of just stepping up and using our voices. And of course, like hip hop is this popular genre. And so, yeah, it's starting to kind of come out as a little bit more political. But I feel like, there's so much more room for storytelling these days, especially with everything we're going to. So I hope we can see more of that, because I love that aspect of music when I can hear an artist's story. And then the
Yes.
beat with it, it's just amazing. Some of my favorite artists are like UGK and Outkast, and that's what they were doing. They were rapping about what they were going through in their communities and how they wanted more for themselves and wanted more for their communities. And so I'm just looking to follow in their footsteps and kind of do the same thing. Yeah.
Awesome. When you sit down and write, where do you find yourself writing? Are you just kind of, I feel like you're probably the guy that's like constantly writing.
Yeah.
But is there a place or a time of day? I mean, you said that your noon hour is when you go for a walk. How do you structure your day? So that's the overall question. Take care of your head and your
Yeah.
heart and your craft. And then you have kids. Yes.
Yes. Yes. One.
So that one kid, so you got a full dad duty in there. How are you juggling all of that, and are you finding a rhythm or able to apply a
I'm
rhythm?
starting to. My daughter's in kindergarten this year. I drop her off and I pick her up every single day. That is my duty, and I love it. And so when I get back home, I kind of just do my meditation. I go and just like some Palo Santo and kind of just get in the mode, get in the vibe. And then I kind of just put a beat on and see what happens. Like before I got my publishing deal, Array, I was working for the post office. And when I was walking my mail routes, that's where all the ideas and the words were coming to me. And it seems like the lyrics and the music and the words always come at me at the wrong time, like when I'm driving or when I'm doing something.
Totally.
Yeah, so I always try to have my voice recorder active or a little piece of paper just so I can jot down notes. And it's been weird. Ever since I have signed, I haven't been writing anymore. I've kind of just been going straight to the mic and just saying what I have to say and then hitting pause, play, and then kind of doing it that way. Because for me, like writing is just kind of getting in the way. It's like a two-step process. You're writing it down and then you're going and saying the same thing that you're doing into the mic when you can just directly into the mic. And that comes with learning and educating yourself. But I mean the words and the lyrics normally come at the wrong time. But we just try to do the best we can in getting that out. So
yeah, I know the feeling. I write as well, and I keep a little. I've learned by not doing it, but you know how when you're about to fall asleep, and then you're like, oh no, if it's good enough, I'll remember it in the morning. No, write that stuff down. Yeah, so I've learned that.
I use my iPhone notes like a champion. Like I think I'm running out of iPhone storage just on my iPhone notes. So I know the feeling of just kind of writing those ideas down. And that's for anything. That's not lyrics. That's just for anything I can come up with, merch or stage design, things I need to tell the band. Like I try to write those things down, because who knows when you find that creative spark, it comes here and there.
Yeah. Got to keep the channel open. I text myself. I just send texts to myself. It's kind of weird because then you get it twice. It's weird, but like still, it's like definitely. At least I don't have to like pull up notes and write it down or whatever.
I do that. I don't send an email, so I'm like, I'll just text myself the song so I make sure I have it, and so I do that all the time. You're not alone. Not alone.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just getting older and I can't remember it in the morning. I did an interview with Johnny Gowdy. Johnny Gowdy.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was talking about you because we were talking about the Austin Music Foundation. So, and you went through that program. Yeah.
I did. I loved it.
For you?
Yeah, it was definitely a learning curve. I had never used, because they use a lot of analog equipment. So they go straight in, and then, like, you know, these days we have laptops that like do everything for us. So
Yeah.
I wasn't used to that system. I wasn't used to it at all. And I learned so much from them. And I learned how to incorporate some of that stuff into my sound as well. So I mean, I had an absolute great time just kind of just being around them and just kind of just educating myself on what they had to offer. I'd recommend that to any other young up and coming artist that's available. Like, yeah, they got some cool resources there. That's
Yeah.
so yeah,
That's a
really.
great
And
foundation.
Johnny's like, he's always just like got this smile on his face, or just got this cool vibe going that'll just put you in a good mood, man. So shout out Johnny, man. Thank you
Shout
for that.
out to Johnny Gowdy. He's a dear friend of mine. And I adore him and so talented. So
For sure.
talented. Is there a structure? So one of the things I was surprised at, I mean, I probably sound kind of stupid. I've never gone to a rap performance before I saw you at C-Boys, quite honestly.
Wow.
Oh, no, that's not true. I saw Coolio. You
Awesome.
remember Coolio? He
remember
came to my hometown for like some, random in Erie, Pennsylvania, like some like We Love Erie days. And he came, and that was back in the 90s, when he was like, so I have seen Coolio. So
Gangsta's Paradise. Like, yes.
yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, that was the jam when I was in high school. I think I'm probably a lot older than you. But one of the things that I was surprised to see, and so pleasantly just surprised, is your band. Like, shout out to your band. And I guess I had a preconceived notion of just that you were just going to be standing up there rapping. I don't know. I didn't know.
That was me from age 15 all the way till now. I stood up there by myself, and it was the most scariest thing every time I got up there. It was like, what am I doing? How am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then I went to a couple shows during South by Southwest. And then I watched my older cousin, Kid Jones, which is a rapper in the city as well. I watched him perform with the band, and I kind of just seen the impact he was having from that. And I knew I wanted to incorporate that in my sound. And so, of course, I knew some guys around the city. I met my guitarist first, which he knew a bass player, and then which he knew a drummer, and which he knew a piano player. So it kind of just snowballed, and we figured it out, man. And we've kind of just been jamming along the way. So yeah, shout out those guys.
Yeah, they are so good. And the way that I guess another question I have is like, are your songs, because I feel like I'm just trying to soak in every word that you're saying, because you're saying probably 10 times more than what a classic, pop song, I guess, would be saying. Like, is there, do you keep the same structure of a song? Do you do like, verse, chorus, verse? Is that how you write, or is it a different structure for?
Yeah, normally it's just however I produce the beat.
Okay.
Kind of just comes out of nowhere. I do a lot of sampling from old records, and I use this site called Splice, which has royalty-free samples for artists that can't afford to get samples clear. It's really helpful. Recommend that to you. But yeah, it's just really all about the structure of the beat. One thing I always try to do is just kind of like come up with these really long rap verses, because I know no one's brave enough to do it up there. Like, how can I stand out? How can I say, oh, okay, I got it. Just rap for like 3 minutes straight, and kind of been something I've been practicing and I've gotten good at. And so, yeah, I don't think it comes with a lot of structure. I think it just comes with creativity and trying to stand out a little bit. It's kind of where I got that from. So,
well, you're finding the balance, because the brain wants resolution. It wants to recognize pattern. I mean, that's why I think why our brains love music, and it's kind of that cool language but we want to figure it out, right? We want to organize it, and repetition, and package it, and resolution. But so if you're not following that, I will say, I mean, that band that you have, and the groove, and the pocket, and then the way that you come in, and then you do your thing, and it's just like, it's so refreshing. It's like oxygen just pumped into the room. It's really, really good. And you look so happy, and you're right exactly where you're supposed to be. And you come across as like not 1 ounce of anxiety. So
that's good to hear.
You're doing amazing things, and I'm so excited to watch you continue to climb. What else? I want to make sure that people follow you. So what's the best before we close? What's the best way for people to support you? And, it's not just like hitting a like button, like how can we actually support you?
So Bandcamp.
Yes. I love Bandcamp.
I was so glad you said that. Bandcamp is a way for us artists to kind of get not all of the dollar, but more of an actual dollar, not 0.0000 cents of a stream. I love streaming. I think there's a time and a place to stream. But if you really want to support myself or any other local musician, it's definitely Bandcamp. A lot of our music and merch is there. I'm on Instagram at Deezie Brown, everything. Twitter, Facebook is at Deezie Brown. That's DeeZie Brown. But yeah, Bandcamp. I think they're having something coming up where they're waiving the Bandcamp fee, so the artist gets all of that dollar. I think it's in the next week or so.
Yeah, they do Bandcamp Fridays. Yeah.
There you go, Bandcamp Fridays, and we're looking forward to stuff like that. So yeah, that's one of the big ones. And then they just partnered with Epic Games. I don't know if you heard of that, but a gaming platform, and of course this whole thing with the metaverse and NFT are coming up. So I was super excited to see that because I'm a super art boy as well. I kind of combine art with my music. It's some of my favorite things to do. So yeah, Bandcamp is the way to go. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to push that when this comes out, and we will get folks to really go there and support you. Well, cool. We have to say goodbye, and I'm so sad, but I'm coming. I'm going to try to get tickets. You have a show coming up with James Robinson.
I do.
And I love him too. I've seen him before. Yeah.
And we're probably going to be performing some songs together. We've been working on some music silently, just kind of trying to cook up some stuff. So you might hear some new music as well. Also, I am in a group with Jake Lloyd. It's called Geto Gala. Yeah. And we're looking to release some music next week as well.
What? So okay.
Yeah. So yeah, poke Jake a little bit on that when you do the interview with him as well.
I will.
Looking for a huge year, and just wanting to just stay consistent, and just push through. Yeah.
I've been listening to some Geto Gala too. We were gonna get to that. You're gonna have to come back on. Of course. When you're all famous and you're like, oh, who? I'll be like, Deezie.
I promise, my word, I will be back.
Okay, good. And we'll get into all of that. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm not even gonna say best of luck because you don't need it. Just keep crushing it. Just keep doing what you're doing because you are on a climb, and it's just so fun to watch you. So,
well, I really appreciate you having me. I love talking and doing interviews. It's my way of facing my fears. So I appreciate you having me, and looking forward to seeing you soon too.
It's been a pleasure, and I didn't bite. So, all right. Well, that does it for another episode of the Austin Downbeat. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you to Deezie Brown for joining us. See you next time.